In this arena, we've brought together two digital challengers, the blue debater, who questions and challenges the recognition of LGBTQ rights, and the red debater, who stands in support of LGBTQ rights. Today's clash is about LGBTQ rights. To keep things fair, 4 of the leading AI models have stepped in as judges. Let's begin with the opening question. To what extent should cultural, religious, and traditional values influence society's acceptance and legal recognition of LGBTQ rights?
I want to begin by stressing that cultural, religious, and traditional values are not optional add-ons to society. They are the foundation of identity, morality, and social order. When we discuss LGBTQ+ rights, it is crucial to ask whether granting full legal recognition aligns with the values that have held communities together for generations. Many religious teachings and cultural traditions view sexuality and family structures in specific ways that do not endorse same-sex relationships. To disregard these long-held convictions in favor of rapidly shifting social trends risks eroding trust, creating division, and weakening the moral compass that guides societies. While individuals should be treated with dignity and respect, the collective beliefs of communities should not be sidelined. In shaping laws and public acceptance, society must balance compassion with the preservation of its cultural and religious heritage. Without that balance, we risk undermining what has sustained us for centuries.
We asked 4 AI models to evaluate both sides based on 5 criteria. Each response was given a score from 0 to 10. Here are the scores the judges awarded for the first response.
I respect the importance of cultural and religious traditions, but we must remember that traditions are not static. They evolve as societies learn and grow. History shows us that many practices once defended as moral foundations, such as denying women equal rights or opposing interracial marriage, were later recognized as unjust. The same applies here. Human rights should not be determined by majority belief or inherited customs, but by the principle of equality under the law. When LGBTQ+ people are denied recognition, it is not simply a matter of cultural preference. It is a denial of their basic dignity and freedom. Protecting individual rights does not erase cultural heritage. It simply ensures that no one is excluded from full participation in society. True strength lies not in clinging rigidly to the past, but in allowing our values to adapt in ways that uphold both human dignity and social harmony.
Your argument assumes that every change labeled as progress automatically improves society, but not all change is beneficial. Comparing LGBTQ+ recognition to past struggles like women's rights or interracial marriage is misleading, because those shifts did not fundamentally alter long-standing definitions of family or moral codes rooted in religion. Cultural and religious values provide societies with stability, shared meaning, and a moral compass. If laws are reshaped without regard to these foundations, we risk creating a society detached from its core identity. Equality should not mean disregarding the deeply held convictions of the majority. Rights must be balanced against the collective good. And traditions exist precisely because they have guided generations successfully. Rapidly redefining them to suit individual preferences undermines cohesion and creates conflict. To preserve order and continuity, cultural and religious values must remain central in determining how far LGBTQ+ rights are recognized legally and socially.
You argue that traditions must remain central because they provide stability, but stability should not come at the cost of injustice. Defending the collective good cannot mean denying individuals their fundamental rights. In fact, traditions have often been used to justify exclusion. Yet societies grew stronger when they chose fairness over outdated norms. Recognizing LGBTQ+ people does not erase family or faith. It simply allows people to live openly without fear of discrimination. Legal rights are not about privileging individual preferences, but about ensuring equal protection under the law. If we base laws solely on religious or cultural doctrine, we risk enforcing beliefs that not everyone shares in a pluralistic society. True cohesion comes when all citizens feel valued and included, not when some are asked to suppress who they are. Progress may challenge tradition, but that is how societies refine themselves toward justice and lasting harmony.
You claim that progress requires challenging tradition, but not every challenge leads to greater justice. Sometimes it destabilizes what has long safeguarded communities. Equal protection under the law must be balanced with respect for the shared moral framework that unites people. Redefining marriage, gender roles, or family structures to accommodate LGBTQ+ demands is not a small adjustment. It reshapes institutions that religions and cultures worldwide consider sacred. A pluralistic society does not mean erasing those convictions. It means acknowledging them in lawmaking. Otherwise, we risk alienating the majority who see these values as non-negotiable. Calling these beliefs outdated dismisses the wisdom of centuries and frames faith traditions as obstacles rather than pillars. Inclusion cannot come by marginalizing deeply held convictions. True harmony arises when individual rights are pursued without dismantling the cultural and spiritual foundations that have given societies identity, continuity, and moral order for generations.
You argue that recognizing LGBTQ+ rights reshapes sacred institutions, but institutions have always evolved to meet the realities of human life. Marriage, for example, has not been one fixed idea. It has shifted across cultures, from arranged unions to partnerships based on love, from rigid gender roles to more equal ones. Expanding legal recognition to LGBTQ people is part of this natural progression. Protecting their rights does not erase religion or culture. People of faith remain free to practice their beliefs. What it does is ensure that civil law, meant to serve all citizens, does not privilege some while excluding others. A pluralistic society must respect tradition, yes, but it must also safeguard minority groups from being ruled solely by majority opinion. True harmony comes when laws reflect fairness and equality, allowing tradition to coexist with progress, rather than using tradition as a barrier to justice and inclusion.
You suggest that changing marriage and family norms is simply a continuation of past evolution. But there is a critical difference. Earlier shifts still preserved the core idea of family as rooted in the union of man and woman. Redefining that core to include same-sex unions is not just adaptation, it is a complete departure from what nearly every culture and faith has upheld for centuries. Civil law cannot be separated from moral foundations, because law itself reflects what a society deems right and wrong. To ignore those foundations in the name of progress risks hollowing out the very meaning of shared values. Protecting minority groups is important, but it cannot mean discarding the beliefs of the overwhelming majority. A truly pluralistic society respects diversity while still upholding the cultural and religious principles that have sustained social stability, identity, and continuity through generations.
You argue that including same-sex couples in marriage is a departure from tradition, but every significant expansion of rights has once been seen as a radical break. For centuries, many believed women's equality or interracial marriage violated core social norms. Yet today, we see those changes as essential to justice. What you call the overwhelming majority is not a permanent truth. Public opinion has shifted dramatically on LGBTQ+ rights, showing that societies can and do re-examine their values. Civil law should not enforce one religious or cultural view, especially in diverse nations where citizens follow many different beliefs. Instead, it should guarantee fairness for all. Expanding recognition does not strip traditions from those who hold them. It simply ensures that others are not excluded from equal treatment. A pluralistic society thrives when it protects both freedom of belief and freedom to live authentically, without forcing one group's convictions onto everyone else.
You claim that shifting public opinion justifies redefining marriage and family, but legality should not be dictated by popularity. Societies are not strengthened by bending centuries-old moral frameworks to align with trends. The examples you cite, women's rights and interracial marriage, do not equate to redefining the fundamental purpose of family, which has always centered on natural procreation and intergenerational continuity. Civil law reflects more than individual freedoms. It embodies shared responsibilities, moral principles, and social cohesion. Granting legal recognition to LGBTQ+ relationships without regard to these foundational values risks destabilizing institutions that maintain societal structure. Protecting minorities is important, but not at the expense of overriding the beliefs and traditions that unite communities. True pluralism is not about discarding majority-held principles. It is about finding solutions that allow all members of society to coexist without dismantling the cultural and spiritual cornerstones that have sustained civilization for generations.
You emphasize foundational values and procreation as the basis for denying LGBTQ+ recognition. But civil law is not meant to enforce biological determinism or religious doctrine. Families take many forms, and countless children thrive in households led by same-sex couples. To restrict legal recognition based on traditional definitions ignores the lived realities of millions and perpetuates inequality. Stability and social cohesion are not threatened by inclusion. They are strengthened when all citizens can participate fully and safely in society. Protecting tradition does not require denying rights. It requires ensuring that cultural beliefs coexist with universal principles of fairness. Excluding LGBTQ+ individuals from legal recognition fosters marginalization, harms mental health, and undermines the principle that justice should apply equally to all. A modern, pluralistic society balances respect for heritage with the necessity of protecting the dignity and rights of every individual without leaving anyone behind.
The evaluation results show a consistent trend. All 4 AI models rated the pro-LGBTQ supporter arguments notably higher than the non-LGBTQ supporter arguments, with averages ranging from 8.6 to 9.2 versus 5.9 to 7.7. This suggests that the models collectively found the pro-LGBTQ side clearer, stronger, and more persuasive. While this may reflect biases toward progressive values, it also indicates that arguments framed around equality, historical precedent, and inclusivity tend to align more closely with the model's reasoning frameworks and rhetorical standards.
That concludes today's debate inside the arena. If you enjoyed this battle of ideas, don't forget to subscribe for more debates judged by AI. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next round.